Hello, everybody. I just watched a video, or I guess I say I listened to it. It was video on YouTube about it's the guy that he does a lot of research on deer behavior by using a drone. I can't think of the guy's name, but he uses a drone to recover uh, people's deer they can't find, but he also uses that drone to count deer and watch deer, see, um, just learn their behavior. And he just recently made a video on trying to figure out what he thought contributed to so many one lung hit deer, liver hit deer, basically wounded, poor shot deer, uh, were, by archery equipment, bow or crossbow, if you want to call it crossbow archery. Um, but why it's kind of like on the increase. And I don't know. To me, it seems pretty obvious. And I say this because I've been guilty of it myself. Not pointing the finger. I guess it's something I'm consciously had to grow out of and still working to grow out of. But I say it's like you can apply the 80-20 rule to your deer hunting, or the way I try to apply 80-20 rule to my deer hunting, saying that the I'll say this the I think that people get mixed up with archery and bow hunting. They try to uh, they try to apply the same set of rules to one, which uh, I forgot who said it, but they said the quote was that archery is the art of hitting a target at the longest distance possible, and bow hunting is the art of getting a shot at a animal as close as possible. And I was under this impression myself that I thought that the more accurate of a shot that I would become in the backyard or whatever, the the smaller I could make my group, the the farther I could hit that target, then that was going to translate into me being killing more deer that year. And so I would spend, you know, here's where the 80-20 rule applies. It's like I would spend like 80% of my time trying to get that group down from, whatever, a baseball size group to a half dollar size group. And then if I could accomplish that half dollar size group, can I get that down to a quarter size group? And just trying to think, just almost hit the same arrow and work, spend all my time on that most of the season, shooting, 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 when really all I need to do, I mean, a deer's heart, you know, it's bigger than my fist. I don't have a very big fist, but it's quite a bit bigger than that, and that's really all you need to hit. And in reality, you don't even need to hit that. You need to go through both lungs, which is even bigger than that. And so if you can do that with your bow, that's a dead deer. It is not any more dead. If you hit that thing through the heart, it does not matter if that was an arrow that was shooting or coming from an archer that was shooting a 3-inch group or a 1-inch group. It is just as dead either way. And so that and that, so shooting like a target archer and not putting that, so putting in all that time tinkering with the arrow and your form and getting caught up in, um, you know, the knock tuning, the disc tuning, the uh, when you've already accomplished, you're already shooting good enough uh, to kill a deer. You know, you can hit a heart of a deer at 40 yards, then it's good enough. If you want to go beyond that, you know, you want to get into archery side of it. But if the main goal is to be able to kill a deer with a bow, then a group the size of its heart at 40 yards is dead. And then on top of that, so people think, well, you know, they get to that point to where maybe they can at 70 yards they can have a 2-inch group at 70. They get just really fine tuned. So now they think that they can kill a deer at 70 yards. And it is possible. It's but it's going to have to be um, you know, perfect scenario. There's going to have to be some sort of, you know, I think of like the velvet season here in Tennessee. The jar flies are so noisy in the evenings of that hunt usually that, yeah, if you could accurately um, hit a deer at 70 yards and those jar flies are cranked up, likely that deer is not going to hear that arrow coming at it. And I've shot at deer 40 yards, I think, is maximum you should even shoot at a deer that is unalert, that is completely calm. Because I have shot at them before. I've messed up. I've shot at them that were, I've had to make some sort of noise to get them to stop at 40. And now that is a totally different deer. His um, satellite dish ears are pointed right at me, so he's going to hear that arrow, uh, you know, a lot easier than with him turned away or just it not even on his mind. He's just eating on something. He is already that he is on hair trigger. He heard something, so now that has went from relaxed to hair trigger, and to the point I've aimed at their all the way to where I should shoot under them at 40 and still shoot over them because they react to the hearing that arrow coming at them. And I have messed up and shot at them at 40 that were spooked. They're not just alert, they're spooked. And they have reacted so much that they didn't do that whole drop down to the ground and lunge forward. They just barely dropped and mostly lunged forward. And I hit them, I mean, just right in front of the hind leg. Just like the worst gut shot you can imagine, or just right through the stomach. And never find them. Totally, I'm like, you know, never do that again. Even, I mean, 30 yards, you're pushing it. I've made it on spook deer like that, but I have had to aim really low. You know, should we be aiming at deer, uh, you know, to where if they don't react, it's going to be a bad shot, and we're having to aim where we hope that deer is. It's, you know, it's kind of a, I don't know, should or shouldn't. Uh, but I think that, you know, long range shooting, the confidence in long range shooting starts making people make these longer shots, and it's totally different. They start applying this target shooting to hunting. I've seen it before on other YouTube videos. I can tell by the way they draw their bow back. I'm like, they'll yank it back, just or the IRS will or the arrow will make a noise when they pull back, but mostly just like the yanking back. And I'm like, there is no way you could do that out in the woods with a deer, you know, 20 yards or under in silent woods. You cannot just yank your bow back like that and it not be looking straight at you after you did it. And so, like if you'd spent, instead of that, say, maybe spent 20% of your time getting to that heart size group and saying, okay, that's good enough, and then spending that other 80% in scouting and getting permission in different places and uh, working, doing what it took to get close to a deer, or maybe find more deer, you get a lot more bang for your buck by doing that, as opposed to just spending all your time getting to making those micro groups out on the range. Or what about this? Like, totally different up in the stand. Like, instead of, okay, I'm shooting good enough, I'm shooting this, like I say, heart shot size group at 40. Now I need to get up in a tree and shoot at awkward shots, or shots that get good at drawing the bow back and being able to slowly pull it back. And to, it doesn't apply to crossbow shooters, but you have to, with a compound or a recurve, you have to get that bow back without being seen at a time that you're not going to have to hold it forever. And then you're going to have to be able, can you let your bow down slowly and not be seen? Is that possible? Or are they one of them that just drops it and then the arrow clicks when you let the bow down? Can you do that? Can you slowly pull it back and slowly let it down? That's why I've said before, a lot of these bows, they're great at shootability, but they're not very good at killability. They don't have the other things like on a range where noise and the thing being like a lead weight and having aggressive cam that you're going to pop something, or raise your bow straight up in the air to get it back, and making all this movement to where you're going to be seen, it's going to just mess you up. Where it doesn't matter on the range, it does matter in the tree. So I see that. I mean, I think of probably the increase of crossbows, because you can just sit there and, I don't know, I just know by what people that own them tell me that 100 yards they can hit a baseball no problem at 100 yards if they have a good rest. The thing is, it's still an arrow coming at that deer, whistling, coming at that deer, and now you shoot at him 70 yards with that crossbow. That is a long time that he's got to react of hearing that thing coming at him. So I could see that causing more injury, and just that, and the then increase of people that just like, they're just waiting on that buck all season long, and they're not getting that, they're not shooting those does before the moment of truth, whenever they get the shot at that buck that they're wanting to shoot. When in the early bow season, not to say, just to say, well, if I shoot these does, it's going to mess up my hunting, but you can, I go to places that I don't, it's like where I meat hunt is not where I mature buck hunt. So pretty much not counting on seeing even there even being a buck in there that I'm worried about spooking, and it's not the rut. So it's like prime time to fill up the freezer and get my confidence up back to where I'm rusty from not hunting, and back to killing deer, being able to, after the third or fourth doe that I've put down, you're fairly confident that when that buck walks in, you can just do the same thing with him that you've done uh, with the does. So, and I don't understand why you know people don't do that early season freezer filling. Why you want to wait till don't kill not don't shoot anything for the freezer until you've got that buck, and now you're out there and 20-degree temps, freezing to death, trying to fill the freezer up at the end of the season. And I've done that, and I'm like, this is stupid. I'm doing this early, and then the rest of the season I can just cruise. All I'm focusing on is getting that buck. Don't have to worry about having enough meat in the freezer to last me till next season. It's already done, and I can hunt the rut. And when it's gets down to brutally cold, if I want to go hunting, I can, or if I want to go trapping, I can. And stay out of the getting up at 3 in the morning crap. But I think I say that just to think about the 80-20 rule that applies not just to deer hunting. You can apply it to just about everything in life. But I think that's what's a lot of the problem. I didn't know that there was that many bad shots. I mean, maybe that, or your wounded deer. Maybe it's that, and people just knowing that, like, they'll just go get a dog, or they'll just get a thermal drone to find it. So they just, like, if I put just as long as I can put an arrow in it, and that's good enough. It'll eventually die when maybe it won't. Maybe it'll just suffer for days and uh, not die. So I believe that's all that's just on my mind, and think I'm on the right track. Anyway, thank you.